And we are back. A fire broke out inside a Dunkin' Donuts recently on 3rd Avenue in the Melrose section of the Bronx, quickly spreading to adjacent businesses. The blaze required hours of intense firefighting efforts, resulting in minor injuries to 3 firefighters and leaving a trail of destruction and economic hardship for the affected businesses. In the aftermath, the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District has mobilized coordinating support and resources for the impacted business owners, showcasing the community's resilience and, of course, the determination to rebuild. Joining us now is the Executive Director of the 3rd Avenue BID, Pedro Suarez. And Pedro, thank you for being with us. And I know it's a tough time for those in the Melrose District. Talk to me a little bit about where we are right now.
Yeah, so thanks again for having me today. In terms of where the businesses are right now, they're looking for new space at this point. The building had, to our understanding, complete damage. And even if the building is renovated, we're talking about a process that could take anywhere from 1 to several years. And so the conversations that we've had with businesses is really focused on shifting gears and saying, okay, can we find a new space, ideally within the district, and what is it going to take to be able to do that financially and logistically?
And when we talk about financially and logistically, obviously business owners are taking a hard hit. The community is taking a hard hit. Talk to me about the economic destruction that's really taking place as a result of this fire.
Yeah, I mean, we had conversations with the business owners several times already over the past month. And I would estimate that, we're talking about, several $1,000,000 a year lost in potential revenue and economic impact for the local community. Approximately 6 businesses were impacted by this fire. Holland Textiles, a Chinese restaurant, New China restaurant, and a discount store, and a designer who was also housed in the textile store as well, an entrepreneur. And then obviously the Dunkin' Donuts was also impacted. So, a large number of businesses impacted by this fire, and we really want to assist them in that transition period.
So there's the talk of relocating, finding them an existing place. What plans are in place right now? What's the day-to-day? Are there conversations with potential places in the area?
Yes, so one of the great things about having a business improvement district is that property owners are on our board of directors. And so we have relationships with property owners, the major property owners in the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District. So in my role, what I've been doing is introducing the businesses to the property owners, to their brokers, to identify a space. And it's up to them to figure out the right space for what they need. But the hope is that they'll be able to identify spaces as close as possible to the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District, which runs from 148th Street to 153rd along 3rd Avenue.
Yeah. I think when people normally think of fire, the first thing I think is, okay, insurance. But after insurance, there's so much more that's needed. And I think unless a person's actually experienced fire in their own life, they would never know. And then when you talk about commercially, it's a totally different ballgame. So for yourself and those that are working with you, talk to me about the support services and initiatives that you guys have wrapped around to try to sustain these businesses in their time of struggle.
Yeah, I mean, insurance is something that we talk about because not every business really thinks about the extent of the insurance. So for example, Holland Textiles had a shipment, $100,000 of inventory the day before the fire. That was completely destroyed, and insurance didn't cover all of that. So it's also thinking about not just the standard insurance, but for your inventory, thinking about how you're going to insure that, and really create systems for being able to recoup that in emergencies. And so also thinking ahead, having a savings, having an emergency fund, being able to think, 6 months of expenses to have that in case of emergencies like that, because it's New York City, right? A fire, although not super common, is not totally uncommon, right? And so insurance is the first step, and then we rallied with the New York City Department of Small Business Services. They actually have an emergency response team. Not many major cities have an emergency response team. We might be one of the few, if not only in the United States, that has an emergency response team. And so Bernadette Nation, who I know very well from my previous work with the Department of Small Business Services, helps businesses through all kinds of emergencies: hurricanes, floods, fires, you name it. And she was on site that day. And so in addition to insurance, also connecting them to free legal advice. to have the businesses review their lease, because that was also the question that was coming up, is what recourses do they have in terms of the deposit that they put with the property owner and the landlord. And so reviewing the lease is really, really important. And so they sat down with legal advisors around that. And then the next step is really the financial conversation of figuring out what's the financial need to relocating, getting their equipment, their inventory back up and running, because the businesses have shared that their customers are reaching out. These are viable, successful businesses.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke about all that needs to go into this right now. What is the mood and the emotions of those business owners? I know you're in daily contact.
Yeah, so it's traumatic, right? One of the difficult things is that first day, we really didn't want to press too much or ask too many questions or engage them too much, because we wanted to give them space. They were literally there watching their businesses burn to the ground. And so after that, the following Monday, I think the fire was on a Friday morning, the Monday we met, and I think it was just, I don't want to say therapy because we're not therapists, but just creating a space for the businesses to talk amongst each other, to talk with us, to listen, just to create that safe space. And really, really grateful to Community Board 1, Anthony Jordan and Clarissa Alayeto, for letting us use their space to have that meeting. And they've been also coordinating with us at the Community Board 1 and really just talking to them. Very traumatic. I mean, there was tears, they were crying, just because these businesses, most of them have been there longer than a decade. And they all know each other on that corner. So they have relationships with each other. Right. Really, really tough, because every day that their businesses are closed, they're losing money. And so it's really, really tough. And that's why I wanted to also make sure that we really didn't waste any time in connecting them to services and really having, as difficult as may be, conversations around insurance, around legal questions, and around the financial need. And that's part of the planning process. The reason why you want to plan for emergencies ahead of time is because it's traumatic. And it's very difficult in the moment, if you don't have a plan, to start thinking about those things. And so that's why we really, really, coming out of this, really want to encourage people to, plan for these types of emergencies. You hope that they don't happen, but in those moments of trauma, you want to make sure you have a plan in place.
Yeah, well, I mean, going further on that, what lessons can we really take away from this? Because it's an unfortunate incident, very tragic, very traumatic, but at the same time, we could also glean some things for future, particularly for any business owner or entrepreneur that's watching.
Yeah, I mean, one of the tough things is we're still waiting for the fire department to release the results of their investigation. So we still don't know at this point in time the cause of the fire, and so we don't want to speculate, and we don't want to say anything that would be incorrect. But I think overall, there are many, many opportunities and free resources out there to make sure that you're conducting your business operations as safely as possible. And so, the fire department has a great, phenomenal team, and we're grateful for them putting out the fire. But in addition to that, making sure that you're taking all precautions. And again, we don't know what the cause of the fire is, but you can still be proactive without knowing what the cause of the fire is, right? So for all businesses, all entrepreneurs, making sure that they're following all city and state, regulations, doing regular inspections, depending on the types of materials that they have. And then, I think once we have a better understanding of what caused the fire, if it was preventable, the next step is for the bid is to make sure that all businesses in the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District have the information on how to prevent a fire like this if it was preventable. If it wasn't preventable, then it's really more conversation around making sure that you have the appropriate insurance, that you're planning for emergencies, that you're building your reserves. We recommend at least 6 months for occasions like that, so that at least when a fire like that doesn't happen, it doesn't completely debilitate you and you're able to at least pivot, relocate.
We've talked about businesses, supportive services. We talked about organizations that actually have come to the aid. Talk to me a little bit about the community and what the community has done to be a support to these businesses, because, yes, they're the ones who patronize these businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's kind of bittersweet, because the business owners, particularly of Holland Textiles and the discount store, said that it was kind of difficult talking to their customers because it was just a reminder of the trauma and they almost couldn't be in the area on a daily basis because customers were constantly coming up to them and, in meaning well, right, wishing them well and giving them support. But it was a lot. It was a lot to sort of take in. But I think customers and the community in general, patrons have been very supportive and want to know what they can do to support the businesses and local institutions as well. The Bronx Economic Development Corporation, BXEDC, was in communication with us immediately about what can we do to help. And we met with them and the businesses just last week to talk about low interest loans to help them through this transitionary period. And they're doing everything they can to meet with the businesses and see what they could qualify for.
So in terms of timeline, what are you looking at in terms of before we possibly could even see rebuild, restructuring, just things back to a sense of normality? I know it's relatively fresh, but have you been given any particular timeline as to how long this process may go on?
I haven't been given a specific timeline, and I think that it's really up to also the property owner and what they decide to do, whether they're going to, completely gut and renovate the building. I think there's a question, right, as to what will become of the building, right? I don't think that it's realistic to expect that all of the businesses that were there are just going to automatically go back to that location, especially since it's too long of a period to wait. I mean, I would say that it could take anywhere from 6 months to 3 years to really rebuild if we're talking about a total gut renovation and a new building, and the city's licensing and permit process. So we're pivoting and we're thinking more about just relocation at this point, because every day, like I said earlier, that the businesses are closed, they're losing money. And so we want to make sure that we find a suitable location within the area so that they don't lose their customer base, because these are businesses, like I said, that have been around for 10 plus years. But ideally, we would like to support the businesses in identifying a space, hopefully within the next month. And then I'm told on the financial side from BXEDC that it could take anywhere from 30 to 60 days, the application and approval process, but they're doing their best to expedite that process for these specific businesses.
Yeah, well, Pedro, definitely our thoughts and our well wishes go out to those in the community. Real tough loss, I know, but you guys are on it, and thank goodness for a supportive network. And come back, keep us updated. Anything we can do to spread the word, we'll be glad to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, all right. Pedro Suarez, who is the executive director of the Third Avenue bid. Now, again, the fire cause is under investigation. We want you to know if you want more information, please go ahead and visit the website at thirdavenuebid.org. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. Guess what? We got more open coming up right after this.